Here's a video on the distributive property and combining like terms section of the practice test explained. This is number 16 on the practice test, and obviously we are distributing. Why? Because we have a 2 right here and there's no symbol or no sign, no math operation between the 2 and the parentheses. That means we're multiplying. Now inside the parentheses, yes, we're supposed to begin with the parentheses, but inside the parentheses we cannot subtract a number from a variable term, all right? So it's 3x minus 8. That's like me saying, look, I got 3 oranges, take away 8 apples. You can't do that. They're not like terms. So we have to move on to the next outside the parentheses, which is multiplication. This is where we distribute. Distribute 2 times 3x, that's 6x. 2 times, we're gonna call this a negative 8 to make it easier. 2 times negative 8 is negative 16, and that is our answer. Let's move on. Another distributive property problem. Whenever I see a number out here, whether it's positive or negative, I like to circle it and draw arrows. Negative 3 times, this is a negative 7x, so negative 3 times negative 7 is positive 21, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and of course we have the x right there. And we have negative 3 times, this is a minus 10, I want to call it a negative 10. A negative times a negative is a positive, so that's a positive 30, and there is your answer, 21x plus 30, okay? That's the easiest way of doing it. Next question. Here we go. We have a fraction that needs to be distributed into a binomial, right? You can't subtract x's and numbers, so we need to distribute the 2/3. I'm going to circle 2/3, and I'm going to multiply 2/3 times the first term. And you know what? I'm going to show my work on this one. 2/3 times 3x. Later on, once you get good at this, you could probably do some of this work in your head. Remember, 3x is technically over 1. It's easy to multiply fractions. You could multiply the top with the top, the bottom with the bottom, and then reduce. Or you could reduce first, which is what I'm going to do. The 3 cancels with the 3, and then multiply the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. So 2 times x is 2x. I'm going to write that on top. That's a numerator. And on the bottom, 1 times 1 is 1, which means you have 2x over 1, which means you don't really need a fraction. You could actually just erase it and leave it as 2x. Let's do the same for the other one. 2/3 times, I want to call this a negative 9, right? Or you could just call it 9. Either way, a positive times a negative is a negative, so you're going to have a negative down here, a minus sign down there. But let me actually show my work here. 2/3 times 9, and I'm going to put 9 over 1. So once again, you could multiply 2 times 9, get 18, 3 times 1, get 3, and then divide 18 by 3 and get 6. Or you could cancel 9 with 3 if you reduce both 9 and 3 by 3. Okay, so you could reduce first and then multiply across, or the top with the top, bottom with the bottom, or you could multiply first and then reduce. Over here we reduced first. We canceled the 3's and then multiplied the top with the top and the bottom with the bottom. On this one, I think I'm going to multiply first and then reduce, okay, just to show you the different ways. So 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 1 is 3, 18 divided by 3 is 6. So this is 2x minus 6. That is your answer for this problem, okay? Let's move on. So you always got to take a moment and think, what is happening here? Is there a distributive property right here? No, we are not multiplying right here. You are simply combining like terms. You have 3x plus a negative 7x, all right? So you have 3 x's in your pocket, but you owe somebody 7 x's. You could say, I have $3, I owe somebody $7. Well, if you have $3 and you owe somebody $7, you could give them the $3 and you're still going to owe them 4 of those dollars. Now, in this case, we don't have dollars, we have x's, so you're going to owe them 4 of those x's. So your answer is negative 4x. Wow, look at this long one. Again, what is happening here? There is no distributive property, but there is combining like terms. So we have a bunch of x's and we have numbers. So let's work this out. Let's combine the x's with the x's and the numbers with the numbers, all right? So what do we have here? We have positive 3 x's. That's like having $3. Oh yeah, before even thinking of money, if you ever see a minus minus, right here we have a minus minus, change that to plus plus. And now you can think of money. So we have positive 3x, we have positive 2x. That's like having $3 and having $2. What do you have? You have a total of $5, okay? And then there's more x's. There's plus negative 5x. So imagine that, plus negative 5x. You have $5 and you owe $5. That completely eliminates, you don't have any more dollars. But of course, you're not going to write 0x. That's kind of silly. So you don't have any x's whatsoever. And then we move on now to combine the numbers. We have a negative 2 here and a positive 2 here. That means you have $2, you owe $2, or technically you owe $2, you have $2. Either way, when you have $2 and you owe $2, you pay them off, you're not going to have anything left. So the answer here is 0. All the x's canceled out. What do I mean by that? 3 and 2 is 5. Take away 5 is 0. Those guys canceled out. And then your negative 2 and your positive 2, those cancel out. Your final answer is 0. Finally, we get to a question where we are doing both distributive property and combining like terms. So distributive property is really the distribution of multiplication, and combining like term is really adding or subtracting whatever terms are alike. So obviously you're going to distribute first before adding or subtracting. You're going to multiply first before adding or subtracting. Of course, that is according to PEMDAS. You always multiply before adding or subtracting. So right here we do have multiplication. Negative 2 times 5x, that's negative 10 of those x's. Negative 2 times negative 7, that is a positive 14. And then I bring down the extra positive 7x over here at the end. Now that I've distributed, now I ask myself, are there any terms that I could combine? And the answer is yes. You have a negative 10x right here, that's like owing somebody $10. And I have a positive 7x right there, that's like having $7. If you owe 10 and you have 7, you can't completely pay them off. You could give them the 7 and you're still going to owe 3 of those dollars. Now what about this positive 14? Just bring it down. And you cannot add letters with numbers. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the simplified answer. By the way, you're going to be typing these answers in. Make sure you type them in with no spaces between your terms. Like as in put the negative 3x. Don't hit space and then plus and then space and then 14. Just put negative 3x plus 14, no spaces between your terms. Let's move on to the next question. That's right, it's getting more fun. Let's distribute this fraction, and I'm going to include the minus sign. That way it looks like a negative 1/3. Okay, so negative 1/3 times a positive 6x. I am actually going to write it down. 1/3 times 6 with an x. Put the 6 over a 1. Okay, now I already know that there's a negative 1/3, so my answer is going to be negative, but let's actually figure out how to multiply 1/3 times 6. You could reduce first and then multiply, or you could multiply first and then reduce. In this first case, I am going to reduce first and then multiply. So I see the 6 up on top and the 3 on the bottom, and I know that both of those numbers could be reduced by the multiple of 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay, so what do I have now? I have a negative 1 times 2, that's a negative 2 up on top. So negative 2 up on top, and then on the bottom, we have the 1 times 1. Let's not forget about the x that's right there with it. So the x comes down, and we have 1 times 1 on the bottom, which is 1. So what do we really have here? We have a negative 2 over 1x. You don't need to put a number over 1. Anything divided by 1 is itself. So I really have a negative 2x, okay? Now let's distribute over here. Negative 1/3 times 9. Negative 1/3 times positive 9. I want to put the 9 over a 1. And I'm going to, this time instead of canceling first and then multiplying, I want to multiply first and then cancel. So 1 times 9 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. That's really a negative, or that's really a 9 divided by 3. So what is 9 divided by 3? 9 divided by 3 is 3. So obviously the 3 comes down right here, okay? And also the negative times a positive is a negative, so that's a negative 3, or a minus 3, if you want to call it. So let's put a minus sign right there. So we have distributed this fraction into both terms. Now we're going to take the 4x and bring it down. That's what was left over. And then from there, you combine the 4x with the minus 2x. You have $4, you owe $2. You're going to have $2 left over. Bring down the minus 3. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your answer. Number 22, that's your answer. 2x minus 3. Type it in with no spaces between your terms. looks like we have two distributive property situations here. We're going to begin by distributing the 3. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And yeah, I say negative 15, but down here I write it as a minus 15. Remember, a negative and a minus sign is the same thing. And then we also have not a number. I mean, you could imagine a negative 1 right there. Or you could just say, I am going to distribute the minus sign. Okay, so this minus sign, you're going to distribute it to the x, making that a negative x, and also to this negative 4, making it a positive 4. All it does is change the signs. Again, you could have imagined there being a negative 1 times, right here, negative 1 times. So negative 1 times x, negative x. Negative 1 times negative 4, positive 4. Anyways, we have distributed. Now let's combine the terms that are alike. The 6x with the 4x, well, not with the 4x, that's not a 4x, with the minus x. So that's like saying I have $6, I take away one of those dollars, I'm going to have $5 left over. And then I'm going to combine this negative 15 with that positive 4. You owe $15, you have $4, you're still going to owe $11. So this next answer for 23, or the answer for number 23 is 5x minus 11. Once again, 5x minus 11. Almost done with this video. We have a couple more, this one and the next one. So this one right here, it might be a little weird to some people because they're like, well, what do I distribute? Do I distribute the minus sign? Well, technically over here is where it says multiplication. You have 5 with no symbol, no math operation between the parentheses, which means if there's no symbol, it's multiplication. So we're going to distribute the 5. And it's weird because we're used to distributing from the left into the parentheses, but right here in this case we have it from the right that's going to get distributed in. So the 5 times 2x, that's 10x, and then the 5 times negative 1, that's a negative 5. And of course I'm going to bring down the 3. Now after distributing, we go on to combining like terms, combine the x's with the x's, and notice there's only one term with an x, so there are no other x's. And then you move on to the numbers with the numbers, and we could combine the 3 with the minus 5. You have $3, you owe $5, you're going to owe $2. And of course, just bring down that 10x right in front of the minus 2, and that's your answer, 10x minus 2. And we are finally at the end, the last question. Look at that, that's fun. We are going to distribute the positive 2/3. 2/3 times 6x, I'm going to show my work. 2/3 times 6 with an x. You could put the 6 over 1, and you could multiply first and then reduce, or you could reduce first and then multiply. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to multiply this time. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. And of course, we have the x right there. And 12 divided by 3, right here in blue, 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, so we reduced, technically you could say you reduced by 3 reduced by 3, you end up with a 4 over 1, which is just 4. Okay, so that is a 4 with an x, of course. Now let's distribute 2/3 times negative 15. I'm going to write it out also. Positive 2/3 times a negative 15. And we're going to put that 15 over a 1. And this time, instead of multiplying and then reducing, I'm going to reduce first and then multiply. Remember, whatever is on top and bottom, if you could reduce them, divide them by the same value, then you could reduce first, right? So 15 and 3, you could divide both of those by 3. You could reduce by 3. So let me show my work here. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So now we could, now that we've reduced, now we can multiply. 2 times 5, technically 2 times negative 5. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So I want to put that as a negative 10 over 1 times 1, which is 1. And of course, a negative 10 divided by 1, you don't need the divided by 1 because negative 10 divided by 1 is negative 10. So let me write that, negative 10. Okay, so far, all we've done is distributed the fraction into both of those terms, into that binomial. Now we're going to bring down everything else. We're going to bring down this 6x. I'm just going to write it right here, 6x. By the way, that 4x, it was positive, so I put a plus sign in front of it. Then we also have this minus 4x over here that I'm going to bring down as well, minus 4x, okay? So now that we've distributed, now let's combine like terms, and let's combine the x's with the x's. I have a positive 6x and a negative 4x. And, whoops, I almost missed this one, plus 4x. So what is 6x plus 4x? 6x plus 4x is 10x, okay? And then 10x minus 4x, that will be 6x. And what about the, well, let me explain once again what I did. The 6 plus 4 gave me the 10. Then I brought down the minus 4x. So 10x take away 4x is your final answer right here, 6x. And the minus 10, I'm just going to bring it down and write it right there, minus 10.